Deceptive Debauchery, Secret Marriage and the Challenge of Legalism in Muslim Minority Communities by Dr. Mariam Sheibani. So, this is an excellent and well researched article that I came across about the problem of secret marriages in Muslim communities, and also she does discusses it within the Islamic legal tradition, i.e., within the fiqh. And in this article, the author examines this growing problem, which has devastated and demoralized the lives of many young Muslims, women, and families after they found out, especially when they found out that a religious scholar or preacher who inspired them and to live a very pious life had a secret family or engaged in a string of shady functional temporary marriages or had some extramarital relationships and affairs. Now, the scholar of this article, Dr. Sheibani, she does an excellent job discussing this topic not only from a legal perspective and a moral perspective, but also from a social institutional perspective. And she also provides some recommendations for how religious authorities can take steps towards regulating marriage in minority Muslim communities, particularly like in the West, where such sham marriages are quite prevalent. The article is available online, and I'll leave a link. But just to summarize, like I said, she speaks about this issue from both a legal, moral, and social institutional perspective. And one of the challenges that she talks about, which a number of Muslims are facing, is that there are people who claim that such marriages are legally valid or halal or sahih from an Islamic law perspective. And what she does is she debunks this idea that because something may be technically valid according to some Muslim scholars, according to some jurists, it doesn't mean that such acts or such unions are religiously correct or moral. So she does a fantastic job explaining and helping the person understand Islamic law from a very holistic perspective, because a number of Muslims are quite legalistic. And by legalistic, I mean this refers to someone who has an excessive adherence to the law. And when we mean excessive adherence to the law, they don't understand the principles of the law. So it's all about finding, you could say, a scholar to support an opinion that something is halal or haram without understanding the ethics and the principles of the law. So legalism is definitely a problem, especially amongst those who are quote unquote practicing, who consider themselves to be religious, because they try to find sometimes legal loopholes, or they justify bad practices because they can find a scholar or a hadith that they've understood or misunderstood to justify their behavior. So she does talk about legalism, like I said, which refers to excessive adherence to the law. And within a Muslim context, this refers to, you could say, a fixation of fiqh rulings and legal opinions of jurists without balancing the ethics and moral principles of Islam. Now, again, as Muslims, we understand that the Quran and Sunnah, the prophetic way, the precedent of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is how we understand Islam. Another thing that Muslims need to understand and recognize is that for centuries, the Quran and Sunnah have been understood and interpreted differently amongst Muslim scholars, amongst jurists, and there are many opinions that are plausible and valid, and there are some opinions that we wouldn't necessarily agree with, and we say that they are somewhat incorrect. Now, in contemporary times, what many Muslims who follow a legalistic interpretation of Islam is that they will find a ruling, even if it's clearly unethical or in conflict to the spirit of Islamic law, they will still claim that this is something that is Islamic or allowed or permitted. And again, the topic of secret marriage is one of those issues which Dr. Sheibani talks about, again, in this brilliant article, because, like I said, it has caused so much devastation and misunderstandings amongst Muslims and non-Muslims alike, where people take advantage of these religious legal loopholes when they, I mean, really and truly, they're deceiving themselves, not deceiving Allah. But again, unfortunately, it has caused a lot of turmoil to Muslim women, non-Muslim and Muslim women included, and also women who are married, but their husband takes on a secret second wife, and the husband may be knowledgeable in the religion, so he would quote and cite certain hadiths and fatwas to support his unethical behavior, and the woman is left in a position where she thinks that this is something which the religion permits and this is something which Allah, is happy with, and that's definitely not the case. So this article, again, like I said, it's a really great article. I definitely recommend people to read it, because again, she goes into great detail explaining, understanding the problem with legalism, and how, because an opinion of a scholar says something is technically valid from a legal perspective, it doesn't mean that from a religious perspective is something that is ethical, moral, and good to do. So again, I definitely recommend this article. I'll just read the abstract actually. So the abstract: secret marriage is a category accommodating a range of arrangements that seek to conceal a marital union, typically from an existing spouse, the family of the bride or groom, a segment of the community, or the state. These contentious unions have seen an upsurge in recent times in Muslim-majority countries and more recently in minority Muslim communities in the West. This essay examines the phenomenon in minority communities using three interrelated lenses of analysis: the legal, the moral, and the social institutional. Taking this multifaceted approach in this essay, I first examined the legal doctrines of the four Sunni schools of law on the requirement of publicity and witness testimony in marriage before situating the legal discussion about contractual validity within a comprehensive analysis of the broader moral and religious legitimacy of entering into a secret union. I argue that while jurists stipulate disparate minimums for contractual validity, nearly all secret arrangements are nonetheless considered invalid, i.e. fasid, meaning they are incorrectly conducted by failing to meet the required conditions for the contract to produce its legal effects, sihah. And they're also prohibited, haram, in themselves or for their entailments, meaning contracting such a marriage is sinful and entails punishment. As I show, even as some jurists may make arguments that may seem to imply that some versions of secret marriages meet basic conditions to make them technically valid, these jurists nonetheless argue that such marriages are immoral, religiously deficient, unbecoming of a Muslim, and little more than a pretext for illicit sex. Apart from the theoretical question of whether a secret marriage meets the conditions of contractual validity, parties to a secret marriage in Muslim communities today further engage in a number of sins and transgressions and cause harms to spouses, children, parents, extended family, and the community that must also be reckoned with. The essay concludes with recommendations for how religious authorities can take steps towards regulating marriage in minority Muslim communities, highlighting the need for public education of Muslim marriage practices that is embedded in deeper religious minority, centering the Sunnah to counteract the dominant legalism in the Muslim community that underlines numerous contemporary dilemmas. So again, this is an article by Dr. Mariam Sheibani, an excellent article. I definitely recommend people to read, and I'll put a link in the description below.